So I'm going to talk a little bit today about dealing with post-show weight gain, and I think this is something which is really, really relevant and current at the moment. Coming out of that dieting phase where you've been in a dieting phase for an extended period of time, and your main goal within that phase is chasing new conditioning, chasing new detail. You wake up every day, you're a little bit leaner, you're a little bit tighter, and obviously the external validation that comes with that as well. It's exciting to be getting leaner, it's exciting to be lean. And then all of a sudden that goes very, very quickly, in a sense, and scale weight starts to come down and body fat comes down and the lines, the detail goes, and all of a sudden that goal of wanting to be leaner and leaner every day has gone. And I describe it very much as, with my clients, being a kid and looking forward to Christmas and just focusing on that one day, and then just like that, it's gone. And it's a year till the next Christmas. It's kind of similar in terms of dieting for a show, because you're so fixated on that end product, that end goal, how it's going to look, how it's going to feel. And it is great and it is exciting. And then all of a sudden you're left with having to pick up the pieces. But on top of that, you're also having to deal with all these different hormonal changes which are occurring. Appetite hormones, leptin, ghrelin, upregulating massively. You're dealing with, being in that position where you're struggling to control appetite. You're seeing body fat come down, and it can be an absolute whirlwind, especially for first-time competitors. So, this video is just a little bit into how, to deal with that. And also, I'm not just going to reel off a textbook approach and this is how you should. I'm going to empathize with this period of time as well, and just give you a little bit of an insight as to kind of the previous struggles that I've had, because I see a lot of people addressing this issue and just saying exactly how you should approach it. But as we all know, anyone who's competed before, it's not always textbook. You're going to be faced with your own difficulties and your own problems, and I am no exception to that. I've done 9, maybe 10 bodybuilding competitions now, and although I've become more prepared in terms of how to deal with these feelings, it doesn't make it any easier. You don't suddenly become more equipped to manage those hormonal changes that are taking place. So firstly, one of the first things that I try and tell my clients is that if you've prepped for a bodybuilding show, and let's assume you're in shape, okay, so you're in condition, you've lost a lot of body fat. Your body's in a compromised position that, let me tell you now, it just doesn't want to be in. Your body does not want to be in that compromised position. And that's probably a reason why you're feeling pretty shit. That's probably a reason why you're not sleeping very well. That's probably a reason why your body is just telling you we need some body fat down. So it's not healthy to be in this set point. And one thing we need to consider when going down the competitive route is that what we're trying to do is achieve a look which we're peaking for that one individual time on stage, or 2 or 3, or however many times you're competing in that show season. And that look that we're trying to achieve, that peak that we're trying to achieve of being conditioned with very little body fat, very little fluid, very full levels of muscularity, is something which we just cannot sustain long term because it's not healthy. So we need to appreciate and understand before we even reach that set point of reversing and going into an improvement phase, we need to appreciate as we're tailoring towards that we're only going to be in that period of time for a very, very short period of time. And it's important to have a game plan in place of how you're going to reverse. And this is one thing I see a lot of people get wrong. If you don't have a coach, or if you don't have an experienced coach who knows and has been there and knows how to kind of engineer that process, it can be very difficult. And I see a lot of people sort of get left on their own when it comes to this phase. So the most important thing is to appreciate you're peaking for that one moment and we can't sustain that. And this is where a lot of people go wrong. I see a lot of guys and girls trying to keep that level of condition, and they're trying to out cardio their diet. They're trying to over expend, or they're trying to starve themselves throughout the day so they can binge in the evenings and things like that. And ultimately this is an approach that we want to try and avoid, and we want to focus on actually getting some body fat back down, because once you're in that compromised position and body fat's crazy low, your body needs that first initial 10, 15 pounds of body fat. And that depends how lean you are. It depends how much you weigh in the first place, how much body fat you've got. So these are all just, don't go by these numbers. But once you're in that condition, more often than not, you need to get 10 pounds of body fat back down, and maybe more, until you start managing those hormones and managing that appetite. And that brings me to the next point, which is those hormonal fluctuations. So there is a reason why you feel like you could eat everything under the sun. And that's because your hormones, leptin and ghrelin, which are the hunger hormones, so to speak, they're upregulating faster than you can manage. So a lot of people think this is down to metabolism, and my metabolism's firing, I could eat the world. In actual fact, the back end of a dieting phase, your metabolism is on its ass, because your body doesn't know that you're trying to take first place in a bodybuilding show. Your body just wants to survive. So when you're in a position where expenditure's high, food intake is low, and it's been that way for a period of time, your body just wants to survive. So we'll actually slow down its metabolic rate. And this is just a fancy way of saying how quick your body utilizes the energy that you're giving it. And if you're giving your body very little fuel, but calling upon a lot, as in trying to keep all the muscle you've got, your body's going to start to slow down the process of how quickly it utilizes that fuel. So metabolism starts to slow down. So towards the back end of a diet, we're actually up against the fact that metabolism is very low, but hunger is crazy high. So the food that you're eating, it's going to be stored as body fat very, very quickly, because your body also needs that body fat to come down. So to combat this, we just need to get food up pretty thick and fast. And a lot of people will, in this little phase, try and keep hold of conditioning. 4 weeks conditioning is still great. That's not necessarily a place you want to be. And, don't get this wrong and go too far the other way and say, I need to put on loads and loads of body fat. But that initial chunk of adiposity needs to come down so that you can manage your appetite, and you can also get your hormones in a homeostatic place so that you're feeling good on a day-to-day basis. We can get sleep back in a good place. We can get performance back in a good place, and then start focusing on the next goal. And the next goal is so important, and that's kind of the next tier, if you like, to this reverse phase. It's really important now to try and focus on what's ahead as opposed to what's behind of you. So you're looking at your stage shots, you're putting up your throwbacks and looking at how great you looked. And obviously, let's not hide the fact that there's a lot of external validation that comes from that, especially with social media and things like that. And that kind of starts to fade a little bit, and people don't care as much in the gaining phase. But this is why it's important to set new goals with yourself, new goals with your coach, and focus on that next phase of training. So if you're a competitive athlete, your next phase of training, more often than not, is going to be improving. So adding muscle, improving a physique, bringing more symmetry, balance, whatever it is, whatever the judge's feedback has been, that needs to be your next goal. So see yourself in this phase as an athlete. And this is where a lot of people struggle, because they struggle to push body weight, because it's a bit of an abnormal thing, actually increasingly pushing your body weight up, pushing your food intake up, putting yourself in a surplus. Not many people understand it, but the second you start seeing yourself as an athlete, just the same way as a boxer would push up their scale weight to improve their strength before dieting down for a fight, just the same way as an Olympic athlete would, fuel their body within, the 4-year period between the Olympics so they can improve their performance. There's no difference. The only difference being that bodybuilding is not really very commercial. It's not really very, very understood. So there's a bit of a stigma that comes with it. But the second you can kind of lose that association with feeling as though you have to be lean all the time to get that validation from others, the more your results will flourish. And I've seen individuals in the past who have really restricted themselves and then have started to appreciate that they need to push scale weight, they need to push food in order to make those changes, and they've just gone from strength to strength. And another thing that can make this difficult, of course, is other people not understanding it. And I've mentioned that a couple of times. And for me, I find that's a massive barrier with my clients. Other people not understanding, that you may be 20 pounds heavier than the last time you saw them, because you're in an environment where calories are higher and body fat's coming down. I can tell you 100% that most of the people you feel as though are potentially judging, or you feel as though are potentially opinionated about where you are, they probably prefer how you look in your off season and your prep phase anyway. They were probably a bit worried in your prep phase when you was a couple of weeks out, and you could see the outline of your skull. So for a lot of people, we get this warped kind of, illusion of what is normal. Because once you've been shredded, anything but shredded, and you just feel fat. But, it's important to note that this isn't the case. And most people who you may be a bit concerned about, and you may not, but you may be a bit concerned about people, family members, friends, people in the gym, more often than not, they're probably thinking, cool, they look a little bit better now. They've put a little bit of weight back on. And above everything, if you can get yourself to a position where you don't really care what other people think because you're so fixated on your goals, that's the best place to be. But that takes time. You're not going to get that overnight. So the struggles are different for everyone. And like I said, I'll be open and honest. I've definitely struggled with this myself. I think anyone who says they've never struggled with post-show appetite, they're potentially lying, because it is a difficult period to go through, seeing yourself visually get bigger and heavier when you've been so fixated on diet. I've had periods myself in my initial sort of years of prepping where I would try and keep myself lean, and I would do 90-minute Stairmaster a day, so I could go out and eat everything under the sun in the evening. Let me tell you, you're not ever going to out cardio your diet if you're eating everything under the sun. You're just not. And the approach that I found has helped me massively over the years, more so in recent years of competing, is I need to get this initial chunk of body fat back down. Why do I want to get it down? Even though it's going to, the physique's going to fade in terms of details and condition, because my goal now is to get stronger. And that has to be the main goal. And that's the goal that I try and to encourage all my clients to focus on. Get your logbook, get your new training phase, focus on strength goals now, because the goal now isn't conditioning. The goal now is getting stronger, because in your off-season phase, this is where you're making changes. You're not going to grow in a prep. Lots of people switch gear in a prep. This is my time now. All you're doing in prep is unveiling the physique that you've built. Your off-season phase is your opportunity to make those changes to your physique so you come back bigger and better next time. So hopefully that's helped a few of you guys, because I know this is a very, very difficult period of time for a lot of people coming out of show season. And just to kind of recap on those pointers, focus on performance, focus on getting some body fat down quick, because your body needs it. Your body's compromised. We need to improve performance. We need to improve sleep and recovery. Try to disassociate yourself with what other people think. You're not any more worthy when you're shredded to when you've got a little bit more body fat on. And try and focus on your goals and allow that to drive your gaining phase, your goal, and visualize where it is you're trying to be. And hopefully that's helped a few of you who may be struggling with this very sensitive topic. But if anyone does want to ask any questions, as always, please feel free to drop the questions in the box below, and I look forward to bringing you more content.